Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz of Temple Israel in Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of our synagogue. At this time, I'd like to speak to you on the subject of calling for a truce in the Hanukkah culture war. Hanukkah ought to be a time for Jews to celebrate as one people, enjoying the happiness of our holiday. All the more disappointing, then, that Hanukkah has emerged as one of the battlegrounds of an in-house, intra-Jewish culture war. In this skirmish, we Jews, right and left, dispute the meaning and the message of Hanukkah. If only we understood better what is driving the debate, we could transcend it and find a way to stand together. There are at least three sides in this dispute. Our most religiously traditionalist brethren regard Hanukkah as a time when those Jews who were loyal to the Torah and the commandments stood in the breach against assimilationist Jews. When the, quote, reformist, unquote, Jews of the day, 2,200 years ago, wanted to do away with circumcision, with dietary rituals, with Sabbath rest, and with other distinguishing Jewish ceremonies, in the name of participating more freely in Hellenistic society, the quote-unquote Orthodox of the day defended the commitment to uphold God's commandments. When the Seleucid tyrant Antiochus sided with the reformists, it came to open war. But God preserved the pious ones. Today's traditionalist Jews also give greater weight to the miracle story of the oil than to the historical accounts of the Maccabee revolt. They treat that miracle story as historical fact, and they refuse to reckon as true believers any other Jew who interprets the account as a story with a moral rather than as a piece of journalism. The second side in this tripartite struggle is taken by nationalist Jews, some of whom are Orthodox and some secular. These people focus on the military victory, which is part of the history, as opposed to the legend of Hanukkah. Facing a larger and better armed foe, our ancestors successfully defended themselves and regained, for a while, our political independence. For the secular of this camp, the miracle story is a fairy tale, or at best, a reinterpretation suitable to a bygone era when Jews did not have an independent state. Today's progressive Jews, the third side of this dispute, dislike the militarism of the basic history of Hanukkah. They point to a universalist message, light at the darkest time of the year. For them, the miracle story works better than the historical account. But they take from the miracle story its focus on anything but the actual fighting. Their favorite biblical verse applied to Hanukkah is Zechariah chapter 4, verse 6. Selected by the rabbis for the Haftarah, the prophetic message, to be chanted on the Shabbat of the holiday. Lo v'chayil v'lo v'choach ki im beruchi, not by might, not by power, but rather by my spirit, says the Lord. It's not hard to see the historical currents driving these positions. Today's traditionalists are focused on beating back the challenge of assimilation by confrontation rather than by adaptation. Parentheses, in fact, they do adapt, but they seldom acknowledge that adaptation because it conflicts with their self-image. But that's for another message. For such Jews, those who want to create a synthesis today of Western values with Jewish tradition are latter-day descendants of the villainous Hellenizing Jews of the holiday narrative. Today's nationalists are focused on the defense of Israel in the face of the world's massive anti-Zionism. It is not abstaining from pork that gives them their most painful gut check, but protecting Israel from boycott and divestment schemes, from recurring terrorist campaigns and intifadas, and from the threat of a nuclear Iran. Today's progressives, the third camp, are responding to Vietnam and to failed efforts at nation building in the Middle East, rather than to the Second World War and to the Holocaust. They, the progressives, see the potential of power to corrupt as having wrought great damage to the Jewish and the Israeli soul. They are most energized by Jewish participation in universal goals of social justice, rather than particularistic goals of Torah loyalty or Jewish national defense. For me, this is a fruitless debate. To live, I need my spine, I need my heart, and I need my conscience. It is not either or. The traditionalist emphasis on Jewish practices maintains the circulation of Jewish values through the Jewish body politic, and maintains the perpetuation of Judaism as a way of life into future generations. That's the heart. The nationalist emphasis on self-defense is our spine. The environment today is genuinely dangerous, with anti-Semitism never vanquished and on the rise again. Self-defense is a necessity, not a dispensable luxury. And the progressive emphasis on working for a better world for all of God's children is always a key part of the Jewish conscience, without which we would fail in our task of being God's covenanted partners. Fighting pork and fighting poverty do not need to be enemies. Let us pursue the part of the overarching Jewish agenda that most energizes us. Let each of us do that, without disparaging those who respond to different parts of the task. There's work to be done for everyone. For each of us, whatever camp we fit into, the words of Rabbi Tarfon from Pirkei Avot, the chapters of the fathers, the founding fathers of Rabbinic Judaism, are applicable. Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor. You are not required to complete the task, but neither are you free to desist from it. There's work to be done. Last week, many of us declared a truce at the Thanksgiving table so that we could come together and express gratitude. I recommend, as Jews, let's extend that truce to Hanukkah. Chag Urim Sameach, Happy Festival of Lights.